There are some big questions tonight, whether US-Iran talks are going anywhere at all, whether diplomacy is buying time or wasting time. Who blinks first, Washington or Tehran? These are the big questions that are haunting us tonight because the talks are not really going anywhere. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has now left Pakistan after high-level meetings, but with no direct talks with the United States in sight. Pakistan continues to play the failed mediator role, but is this really diplomacy or just delay? Even as Washington pushes for a deal, Tehran has made its position crystal clear: no acceptance of what it calls maximalist demands. From nuclear rollback to regional influence, the gaps remain wide. And remember, this comes as the conflict enters its 9th week, viewers, with tensions still simmering despite a ceasefire extension by US President Donald Trump. So what's really happening behind the scenes? Is Pakistan bridging the gap or merely passing messages between two sides unwilling to budge? And with Iran now heading to Oman and Russia, is a broader geopolitical alignment taking shape against US pressure? Tonight we ask, is diplomacy really failing, or is this just the calm before a bigger storm, a bigger escalation? To help us understand what's really happening, we have Major General Rajan Kochar, geostrategy expert. We also have Vaibhav Malu, energy expert and MD of Enzo Group. Adit Kotari, foreign affairs and geopolitical expert, who's joining us live from London. A very good evening to you, gentlemen. General Kochar, where are the talks really heading? Because Iran doesn't really want to have direct talks. US doesn't want to budge from its so-called maximalist demands. So what are we looking at?
Thank you, Deepak. It's always a pleasure to be on your program. See, it's like this. We are going through motions, as we say that in diplomacy, because one talk will lead to another talk. There are very complex issues here involved, and especially when you talk about the enrichment part of uranium, and when you talk about limiting the sovereignty of a country, which Iran is very sensitive to. Because I don't foresee, this is my analysis, I don't foresee any kind of agreement happening when maximalistic positions are not being reduced to some kind of narrowing of differences. Because you need to understand that there is a huge trust deficit here. And I don't think, because the kind of mediators and IRGCs controlling this entire discussion today, it is no longer in the political domain as far as Iran is concerned. It is the IRGCs. And they are, hardliners. And the kind of statements which are emanating from Iran is a very, very clear indication. They are prepared for a long haul. They are prepared to accept the challenge of the United States in case Donald Trump wants to start this war again, as far as the phase 2 or phase 3 of the operation is concerned. But my considered opinion here is, what is the end state I see? I would like to inform you and the viewers here. I don't see a restart to the conflict at all. This ceasefire may get further extended by a couple of days, but ultimately what I foresee is that there won't be any agreement at all. And Donald Trump will depart from here, declaring himself a winner, declaring himself he has won the war, declaring that he has decapacitated the entire nuclear capability of Iran, the missile capability, the manufacturing process, as well as the naval power in XYZ. And he will declare a victory because the appetite to fight this war, the escalation appetite, I think has gone out of Trump's agenda as of now. And what I can see is, because he's still trying to maintain a position that he is not going to vacate the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. And if that is not going to happen, I don't think Iran is going to budge a bit on that issue.
Right, General Kocher. And Mr. Malu, before I get an update from you as far as how the markets react, let me go across to Adit Kotari. Mr. Kotari, Washington wants a broader, deal. Iran wants a narrow one. Do you think that the gap is bridgeable at this moment, or the trust deficit is adding to the deadlock?
So the trust deficit is definitely extremely high between Iran and the United States, especially because of the way they have acted in the first round of talks itself. When they were held in Geneva, we heard the Romanian foreign minister say exactly how the decisions of the United States were played out, despite Iran having to agree to downgrade their nuclear missile program because they did not want this mindless war. At the end of it all, when we see the foreign minister Arakchi coming into Islamabad and not having any dialogue with the United States and only talking to the facilitators, which are the Pakistanis, that in itself demonstrates that there is a vast trust deficit, which is where the United States have breached certain red lines and they are not willing to come back to the negotiating table. I do concur with Major General Kocher when he says that he doesn't see this going into some sort of a kinetic warfare. But this particular limbo, this fragile ceasefire will continue to exist because what United States wants to do is try and make sure that Iran feels the economic pain of this. At this point, analysts have estimated that Iran is losing anywhere between 150 million to 400 million a day, amounting to potentially the cost of almost about 13 billion a month. And that to an economy like Iran, which has always for the last history or so has been sort of side cornered, is massive, huge consequences from an economic perspective. So they want to increase that economic cost on Iran for it to come back on the table. But we've seen this time and time again. Russia, there were a number of sanctions which were placed on Russia. Their oligarchs were hunted globally. Their bank accounts were frozen. Their businesses were hurt. The West tried everything that they could in their playbook to go after the Russian oligarchs and their businesses. That didn't pay off. That did not bend Vladimir Putin. Are we certain that going after their businesses and trying to hurt them economically is good enough for Donald Trump to say that I do not have an appetite for war and I've degraded Iran, militarily? But here we have Iran, which is actually strategically much more emboldened in West Asia. Even if they do walk away today, what does Israel do next? Because for Israel, a strategically emboldened Iran today, foreseeable in the 5 to 6 year or 10-year period is not sustainable because eventually their goal is to hurt Israel asymmetrically. And similar goes for the GCC countries as well. The fact that Iran is now being able to hold Strait of Hormuz as hostage, which was a new norm set from the February 28th onwards and not prior to that, is making them feel very uncomfortable, which is why you have the countries like UAE and Israel, demanding that US takes more firm measures and more firm actions. So I think we will continue to be in this limbo for foreseeable future unless, one of the sides yield. I don't see the Iranians yielding so far because, this is a new strategic leverage that they've gained. And going away from this position is not something which is going to be strategically viable for them.
And
Deepak.
this also has a bearing on the energy market as well. So, Mr. Vaibhav Malu, with the talks in limbo, what are the immediate risks that we're looking at as far as global crude oil prices are concerned right now?
Let's hope that the other two panelists are right and that we don't see an escalation of war once more. Markets have not, different markets have reacted differently to the current situations developing in Islamabad and in Iran. Ports of Iran have been blocked and trading from Iran has been embargoed by US military. Which is bleeding Iran, obviously, even more than this war. Their defense budget of 10 billion against a defense budget of 1 trillion is self-explanatory as to what the fate of Iran is if they continue down the war path and continue to stop the Strait of Hormuz from being active. Further than this, there could be NATO involvement also later on if Iran's nuclear program demand talks fail and they don't agree to stop the nuclear program. US may just come back one day. US may just not stop right now, and then the markets and the crude prices will increase, and the markets will obviously tank. They will fall. But looking at what's happening right now, it's pretty uncertain because Iran is not coming on talking table with US face to face in Islamabad. Their foreign minister has left, and that's a deadlock. And a deadlock with a military ceasefire, with military escalation like we are seeing right now is also a scary situation. So I would think the situation is very volatile, and if from here they don't come to peaceful talks and resolve all issues, it could be very bad for the markets, and the oil price can really soar up, and markets will definitely. It's a scary time for the world, for human lives at stake, and the region at large, because a lot of countries nearby Iran are at firing range, and as we've seen, they have been attacking those countries. So I hope my other two panelists are right, and this does not happen. That US continues to.
Everybody hopes that the conflict doesn't really, go out of control. But Donald Trump is a very unpredictable man. You don't know what he's really up to. So, General Kocher, let's leave Donald Trump aside, because let's also talk about what's happening internally in Iran, because it seems like the hardliners are in full control. Ghalibaf, who was a key negotiator in the team of Iran, has now been shown the door. Where are the talks heading as far as the new team is concerned?
Deepak, I think you need to understand that there is a narrative war which is already on, and the Western narrative will always try to cloud your mind on the internal situation in Iran. Because many a times I have seen, this is my personal experience in the Ukraine, covering the Ukraine and the Russian war also, where the Western media was parroting a particular viewpoint which was not happening on the ground, and they were trying to cloud the mind of the people and the viewers, everybody around, and the information war is on, and trying to tell everybody, you see, ultimately it is a war of the minds which play, and especially the attrition war, because we saw it in our Indian context also in Operation Sindoor. So, if I can comment on this particular war, on the Iran war, because this is also an attrition war. There are no boots on ground. So who is going to decide the winner? It is not Trump. And people have already made an opinion of theirs, because Iran is still fighting it out after even 50 days of this thing. War was carrying on, then ceasefire and etc. Everything happened. So I will like to take with a pinch of salt kind of information which is coming, which is being projected from inside Iran. Second important aspect is that you need to understand that whatever changes may take place in the interlocutors, the IRGC remains in control. So the ultimate authority who is going to decide what Iran is going to accept or not accept will be the IRGC leadership. Your interlocutors may change. There may be a couple of changes, and media projections may actually come about to tell you that there is some kind of a rift within the IRGC. I don't think that is the actual fact, because having studied this campaign right from day one till today, I don't see any kind of a rift within IRGC leadership. There may be differences of opinion, and which invariably happens in any kind of administration when you have to have a brainstorming session, when you will have varied views. But at the end of the day, whatever the IRGC decides, I think that's final. And therefore, in my considered opinion, I don't see any merit in this kind of narratives which are being played around, showing fractures within the IRGC and including Donald Trump making such kind of statements. I've heard that uh, Mossad, and my last point is Mossad and CIA are making all efforts to do all that. They want to create this kind of a fracture within the IRGC, but what I happen to conclude is that it's not happening.
Okay. Adit Kothari, now the next stop of Arakchi is Oman and then Russia. So are we looking at a new alignment? Adit Kothari, if you could hear me.
Sorry, Deepak.
Yeah.
Deepak, I lost you there for a brief moment. Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah. I was asking you, next stop of Arakchi is Oman and Russia. Are we looking at a new realignment?
So the alignment is not going to, see any sort of changes. What Arakchi is trying to do is trying to build a consortium of support structure behind him, because at the end of the day, they also need their economy to survive. So they're trying to conjure as much support as they can. And at this point, they will try and build as many friends as they can, because we also have to imagine that Iran today does not have many allies that they can rely on, allies who are absolutely inalienable. So can Russia emerge as that particular inalienable ally, that complete dependable partner in Iran, for Iran, which can actually stand by it against the brute might of the United States? Because that will give them enough confidence, and it will also reduce the hegemonic play of the United States in West Asia. So that is what the Iranians are trying to do. Ultimately, it's going to be between Russia and China who are going to be trying to fill up that vacuum. The question is whether China has the spine to play that card overtly, or will they continue to play it tacitly as they have been playing for so long? We know for a fact that most of the military program, most of the tech transfer programs that were being run in Iran did have Chinese collaborations, which is why we saw that hard comment come down from Donald Trump just a few days ago, where he said that any country that would supply weapons or military tech to Iran would suffer from tariffs of 50%. That was pretty much directed towards the Chinese. And then we saw the Chinese vessel being held up at the Strait of Hormuz. So those are the kind of friends and allies that Iran is trying to build up at this point, only to ensure that they have tacit amount of support structure in the region. So when push comes to shove, they can leverage those friends against the United States. Deepak.
Okay, Vaibhav Malu, if this drags on for quite some time now, what is the buffer that we have, and how much impact can we really cushion?
It's a pretty tough question to answer actually at this point, because we don't know the scale of what's going to happen from here onwards or not going to happen. We can only hope and pray that situation here de-escalates, because Middle Eastern economy, the oil economy, is completely at bay here. For the war to be for it to at bay here, for oil supply to resume. But if talks fail here, and talks look to be failing, it's going to be a deadlock, and it's going to be bad for the oil prices, which are going to soar up higher again, above 100 maybe, and prices of stock prices globally, stock markets, indices will fall again. But Islamabad talks look to be failing. However, there's a new development about Moscow being involved, and Chinese theory also. I just heard, and I just feel like I want to say that Chinese can really be very, very negative in this situation for peace talks to be held with their advice in Pakistan. Maybe sometimes that theory also comes in play, and I think Moscow would refrain from being pacifists, refrain from giving any shelter to Iran in this case, because they would want Ukraine and Ukraine trade-off with US-Iran going on there. So it looks to be a scary situation for the world to look at from here onwards, unless something really drastic happens where Iran backtracks and ends the nuclear program.
General Kocher, bottom line is, what are we looking at? Are we closer to a deal, closer to a flashpoint, or neither? If neither, then what's the way forward, General?
Okay, this is a very perplexing. I mean, it's a kind of a question which is conflicting requirements are happening at this point of time.
Correct.
So the first thing is that we are not close to any deal as we have so far discussed. Second is the pressure uh, on the GCC countries now, because see, any kind of a deadlock here, any kind of a delay, it is going to disrupt the economy of the GCC countries, and they are mostly all uh, allies of the United States. So the pressure on the United States from the GCC allies is going to be tremendous. And already we are seeing the effect in UAE, where a large number of people are actually moving out of UAE right now. So at the end of the day, what I see is that the Lebanon part of the conflict, because we have not discussed here, it's also equally relevant here because Iran has made a very important condition here for a ceasefire, that Lebanon must also have a ceasefire. I don't think that is going to happen. And it's a 10-day affair. I think it's going to you finish very, very soon. And Netanyahu is not going to relent on that because he already has an armored division, infantry division, and a number of forces inside Lebanon. And he has a stake within his own country. So now you tell me, a prime minister of a country who starts a war, and if he is not able to win the Iran war, what does he have to go back to his own people with? So the Lebanon war has been started with that premise that he can show some kind of a victory on that area. So at the end of the day, I will conclude my argument here to say that uh, we don't, we will not find an agreement here. United States will go back. Yes, it will go back because if you see the logistics and the military aspects also, if I can comment on that, the kind of ammunition, the kind of rockets, kind of missiles, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and we did a recent analysis on this. So I don't think that United States can sustain for a long war here. It will have to withdraw. It is going to economically blockade Iran because till such time an agreement is signed, that will happen. But that also has an impact on the GCC countries. So that is the point we need to discuss here is uh, how long this blockade will last, depending upon the GCC, impact on the economy of their countries, because United States will have to take a call at a certain point of time to lift the blockade, because it's not possible from a military sense to do this blockade for a very, very long time, because it requires a large amount of your forces here, and Iran has got the asymmetric warfare capability, including drones and mines which can be used, and fast speed boats, etc. So I see for the next 30-45 days, because we can't presume any period, or we can't comment on a scenario which is more than 30 days ahead of us. But what I see is this blockade continues for some time, tries to impact Iran, tries to weaken Iran, tries to psychologically make Iran come to an agreement. If it doesn't happen, United States goes back. And the Israel war continues in Lebanon.
Right, Mr. Malu, give us a clear price, like a proper price on how high the Brent could really rise, and also how long will it take to reach that figure, the highest that you could see in this conflict.
I would say it's about 110 to 120. It is an optimum, is the worst price it can go to. And remaining around 100 is what's going to happen realistically, 100, 105. If the war escalates from here, and if the war de-escalates and there are peace talks, and it could go the other way, where 20% of the supply of State of Hormuz is also met with, and we have around we have oil prices falling again to back to normal, the 60s, 70s gradually, and maybe if peace talks are very successful, Iran comes to senses, it can really bring crude even to low prices because Iran's sanctioned oil will now be part of the supply chain. So markets are not to be touched right now. I would not go near the markets to invest at this point, unless you're a bear and you want to pick up stocks cheaply. Do so after some time, because if the war escalates, prices will fall, and it's as simple as that. If the war de-escalates, prices of oil will fall and markets will go up again.
General Kocher, how important is this deal for Donald Trump? Because his approval ratings are at the lowest ever and midterm polls are right around the corner. So how important is this deal with Iran for Donald Trump's political survival?
You see, I have a different perspective from most of the panelists who say that this deal is very important for Donald Trump. I don't think it is important for Donald Trump at all.
Okay.
Because the kind of statements which are emanating from Donald Trump, he will convince his own people that he has already won the war and he tried for peace and Iran was not willing for the peace, and so he's coming back now. So his team is, I think, working on this kind of a narrative, which it is try to sell, to the people of the United States, because the midterms are also coming in and his popularity also is going down. So he's going to tell the Americans.
General Kocher, we have a big breaking news update. I'm really sorry to interrupt you here. Donald Trump has said that he cancelled Witkoff and Kushner's trip to Pakistan. Trump says that he cancelled, the talks in Pakistan at the last moment. This is Donald Trump's latest statement that's coming in as far as some Western media reports are concerned. Donald Trump has cancelled Pakistan talks at last minute. This is what Fox News is saying. Witkoff and Kushner visit was called off by Donald Trump at the last moment. This is the big update that we're tracking. General Kocher, if we could divert a little bit on this aspect. Donald Trump once again now saying that it was he who called off the talks at the last moment. Another narrative war.
So Deepak, it's not different. What I just said to you, that Donald Trump is not interested in talks. He knows these talks are not going anywhere. He knows he's not getting mileage. So he has made an effort, and I think Iran has not responded. So he is going to paint this narrative to his people. And this very statement, what you are mentioning, that Witkoff and Kushner has been called off because Arakchi was not interested to meet them. So you see the dichotomy of the entire thing, that there is no overture from Iran to meet these people. So why is he sending them there at the first instance? So it is like a disgrace to the reputation of the United States that a country like Iran is dictating to him that we are not interested to talk to your people. Why are you sending them here? So I think I would like to analyze this in this manner, and I don't think Trump is very, very serious about the talk. If he was serious, Iran had a delegation of 71 members, including the speaker, including its central bank governors, including all those people who went to Pakistan the first time. And in 21 hours, and I think his Vance also didn't have, he was always on the conversation with Trump. I think 6 times he spoke to Trump. So you cannot do a negotiation from a differential. You have to take the negotiation as two equal parties. And if you try to impose your will on the other party, I don't think any kind of negotiation can succeed.
General Kocher, how do you see Europe's frustration over these stalled talks? They're just mere spectators now. They have nothing to really say about, what's really happening. But they really want to, intervene here because Pakistan hasn't really done a great job.
You see, I don't think Europe can play any important role because Trump, I don't think, trusts Europe in any way. He has already started distancing himself from Europe in all concerned. And I see one interesting phase coming up ahead. And that is a reset of Europe and West Asia, a reset of Europe and Iran relationships, because we have seen this happening with regard to India, because the European Union never bothered about India, never gave a statement in support of India, including Kashmir. And we see a mother of all deals taking place between India and the European Union, and the huge contingent of these people came to India, spent about 15, 20 days, long sort of negotiations, industry partnerships, and all those things happening. So I see a definite shift in the geopolitics as far as the European Union is concerned.
Mr. Malu, can Iran realistically weaponize oil supply now?
Well, US weaponizes dollars and Iran is weaponizing oil supply, so it's not a happy situation. Yes, they are going to do that. They're going to do only that and Strait of Hormuz, and attack their neighbors to put pressure on the community outside to sort of stop USA and NATO from going a step further. They are not going to touch Turkey because that would mean an attack on NATO. Neighboring countries are unsafe, so they're going to obviously want peace here, and should definitely, hope and pray that that happens.
General Kochar, face-to-face talks is the only, obstacle now, because that's not happening. But that should really essentially happen. So if there's a route where we can put face-to-face talks back on the table, what is that route, General?
See, now what happens in these talks is, because you have put Pakistan in, you see, in between here. So Pakistan really does not have any kind of experience or any kind of finesse as far as the negotiation process is concerned. It is only a mediator. So ultimately, I feel that there has to be a change in your strategy of holding these talks, and unless a more stronger and a prominent player comes into between, something like Russia. China may not be acceptable to the United States, but I think I see, in case, it's a wishful thinking, because it's very, very difficult to do these negotiations. But I have a strong feeling, because the kind of relationship Putin enjoys with Trump, at times it is a blow hot, blow cold type, but still there is a relationship there. And therefore, I feel there may be kind of a barter also happening as far as Ukraine is concerned. Trump may be also quite willing for that. So I foresee that if any kind of progress has to happen here, Pakistan has to be out of the scene, because it won't happen as long as Pakistan is there. It will surely happen if the Russians come into play.
General, Defense Minister Rajnath Singh made a very, very interesting statement recently when he was, ashore in a foreign country. He said that you cannot rule out the possibility of India emerging as a successful negotiator.
I think India already.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Please go on.
No, I think it's for you.
No, General Kochar, the question was for you.
Okay. See, let me be honest on your channel. See, I very much would like, India to be a part of the peace process, but I don't see India there at all. And because, see, we have had our way, we have orchestrated our own foreign policy towards Iran as well as the US. We don't, we are not in a very, very comfortable position right now, either with Trump or with Tehran. So I don't see at all, Deepak. I mean, it may sound a bit blunt. It may not sound good for the people who are propagating this kind of a thing, but I don't see any role of India as far as the peace process is concerned.
You want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, I think I agree with with Major General here that India is not in a good position to mediate here because they are not on in the best of in the US relations have been topsy-turvy due to trade talks, trade embargoes, and trade tariffs. And India-Russia relations have been very good, but Iran is a country which will probably prefer an Islamic country to mediate. And if not Islamic, Europe is open. I think somebody from Europe should take the lead and mediate here, and have the talks in a mature environment where international laws and the intent would be to end the conflict, and the intent would be clearly to do so. If Pakistan is dubious and has been dubious and listens to China, tunes a lot due to financial reasons and other reasons that China Pakistan have in common with Indian animosity. So Pakistan cannot be trusted because they've never been pacifists. If a country like Pakistan that has been promoting terrorism in the South Asian region is mediating with a country that is accused of the same thing in Western Asia with Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthis. It is it we cannot trust this country, Pakistan, to host these peace talks. It should be a better country, definitely. Russia would not, I think, directly be involved, but they along with Indians would be definitely talking to the Iranians to stand down, and Mr. Trump to stand down for sake of peace and prosperity and peaceful resolution of the conflict. But some country definitely in Europe or Middle East should mediate these peace talks once more and try face-to-face meetings, hosting them on their soil.
General Kochar, if talks completely collapse, what kind of a military escalation we are looking at, including all the proxies also involved? Because Iran has said that there is a section of its supplies that have not been used yet, and it's still there as reserves.
You see, Deepak, your mind games are on. See, I don't totally disregard the statement of Iran, but if you have to be a pragmatic and if you see the military assessment, they don't have an unending arsenal or inventory of missiles and things like that. So maybe they have a capability to, if you look at the intensity of the war, if it is fought in a similar kind of intensity, because at times you see there is a lull and there's no firing from other side and it starts like that. So it's not continuously you are launching a missiles at the most about 15, 20 missiles in a day, 25 missiles in a day, not more than that normally you launch. So I don't foresee Iran's capability as far as war waging capacity is concerned to fight a very, very long war. Having said that,
yes, General, sorry to interrupt you. Please go ahead.
having said that, United States also doesn't have that kind of a capability as of now to fight a long war here. So what I foresee is that none of these two countries would like this to escalate into a further military campaign. It is, I think, there will be now a kind of a logistic pause or whatever you can call it, and US may withdraw for a couple of months or maybe to regroup itself and to come out in some other manner after the internal domestic issues of the United States are sorted out. And my last point is that as far as Israel is concerned, I don't think this war is going to come to an end. You talked about the proxies. The proxies war with Israel is a continuous affair. It is not going to stop. The Hamas issue is still on. The Hezbollah war will be on. It will not be stopped. Come what may, Trump may say that we are having a ceasefire, things like that. But the war in Lebanon will continue. And till such time, Israel is able to capture uh, a large amount of territory south of the Litani River, and Houthis. You see, it's very interesting now that if you would observe, Deepak, that Houthis have not opened their cards so far. So it is very important to understand the Red Sea area, the Bab al-Mandab area, all these areas. This is the trump card Iran has had against Trump. It will be a trump card used against Trump. And in times to come, if the escalation has to take place now, it will take place in the Red Sea area, and there is much to lose as far as US is concerned, as far as Europe is concerned, because don't forget the underwater sea internet cables which move from this area onto Europe. Your entire banking and your financial systems will be affected. So, this is the trump card which Iran is holding for the last moment.
Mr. Malu, how are India and other major importers preparing for potential supply shock?
I'm pretty sure they're securing LNG supplies, oil and crude oil and LNG supplies from other countries like Russia that have temporary relief from embargoes till this is not over, and other countries like all over Africa, nearby countries, local supplies, and hoping and praying that Indian ships or vessels are allowed to go through Strait of Hormuz and reach Indian shores. And that's the advantage of Indians staying away from this conflict and just being a silent observer and pacifist. That our economy doesn't take a hit, and we actually cannot afford oil prices to go up any further and LPG shortage to start again because of the mean income of Indians to put things in perspective is just $2,000 to $3,000 per annum, the average income, and that income level cannot stand even small shocks in oil price increases, petrol price increases, diesel price increases, and that's why India has to stay silent and not be on either side of the war and just secure the energy supplies.
Right, Mr. Malu, and